to ask you about the title of Sleep in the Bread Aisle. Did you ever work at a grocery store?
I mean, I did. I worked in the grocery store when I was younger. However, the story derives from when I was just kicking in town in Miller Lite with my buddy Alec Egan on a rooftop, sharing a couple drunk stories, and he told me about his buddy who had a long night of drinking, wakes up, heads to the grocery store to get a sandwich and some Gatorade, before he left to grab some Tylenol for the headache. He's in the store. Turns out it was Tylenol PM, so he had like 4 of them. Next thing you know, about half an hour in, just assed out in the bread aisle. And it was just, when he told me that, I started cracking up, and I was like, man, that's, not only does that sound great to sleep in the bread aisle, but it was just so relevant to what was going on, because everybody was like, man, shave your face, cut your hair, wear this, wear that, do a song with this person, rap like this, and forget conforming to society and industry demands. Forget all that. Like, do what feels natural. Like, so being unconscious to all those demands and, you know, what the big business wanted me to do, I just was like, this is who I am. What you see is what you get. There's no tricks. I mean, there's obviously a little bit more going on inside of me like there is everybody else. But that's going to come. That's going to come out in future music. But right now, Sleep in the Bread Aisle is really about that. Just do what feels natural.
This is going to be the obvious comparisons with Eminem. I mean, he's been sort of out of the loop for quite some time with his retirement. He's coming back, obviously, with a couple of records with Dre. But, I mean, there are superficial similarities, but, I mean, you're different from him.
Absolutely. And, I mean, you said it yourself, and I think that a lot of people right now, whenever you're brand new and you're fresh, it's tough. Like we were talking about earlier, people have to compare it. It happens all the time.
Well, you need a point of reference.
Exactly. And in hip-hop, for instance, there's very few reference points for white rappers that were successful in the mainstream.
Beastie Boys, Eminem, help me.
You could throw Vanilla Ice in that conversation, but other people wouldn't.
Right.
But exactly, one hand. So, you know,
why do you suppose that is?
You know, it's not like a white rapper is a new concept at all. It's just a matter, there's been kind of the stigma of, you know, it has to be the self-humility, you have to be dope. It is black music. It is absolutely black music. It's African-American culture. I mean, Latino were also involved as well from the very beginning. But, you know, I mean, white people have been there behind the scenes since the beginning of it. But, yeah, there's just never been, you know, kind of a forefront of it. But right now, more than ever, you can see that hip-hop has reached crevices like Pennsylvania. I mean, yeah, I dress like this, I'm just kind of hanging out. However, I'm absolutely a child of hip-hop. I've been listening and studying hip-hop for the past, 10 to 15 years. 10 years. And you can't take that away from me. And anybody who says, you're not hip-hop is just, either too old or doesn't understand that hip-hop evolves. It's really tough to say, hey, I'm only a fan of hip-hop from 88 to 96. You're not really a fan of hip-hop, then. You have to grow with it and move with it. And hip-hop is everywhere now. Gatorade commercials, before timeouts of NBA finals. It's just like everywhere. So it's interesting to see now that it's in the suburbs, people are a little like, I don't know how I feel about this, but to me it's a good thing.
I remember when Run DMC started getting outside of New York, 85, 86, people were really confused by this.
Absolutely.
And it took a good 10 years. I guess we had to get into the Ice Cube and the Ice-T and NWA era before it wasn't considered just like an inner city urban thing.
Absolutely.
You started hearing it coming out of Honda Civics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, it's really the truth. It takes some getting used to, especially when you have to classify a song about college as hip-hop. People don't want to do that. But, and even so, like, I'm not straight hip-hop. I'm not a straight rapper. I grew up listening to Oasis and Rage Against the Machine and Dave Matthews Band and Dire Straits and Bruce Springsteen.
Well, your sound would be a whole lot different if you didn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't just ignore those influences and say, this is just rap. You know what I mean? That's who I am. That's who I am as a person. So I have to incorporate that into my music, and I incorporate it into my music unconsciously just because that's what I was raised on.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. A couple more questions here. 5 records. You're talking to a white kid in the suburbs who really likes hip-hop. Okay, 5 records this kid has got to absorb if they're going
to... For me, I mean, personally, I'd say Notorious B.I.G. is Ready to Die. I'd say, like I said, for me, Talib Kweli, High Tech's Reflection Eternal. We want to say, as far as hip-hop goes, huh?
Well, it doesn't have to be hip-hop. I mean, whatever you think a kid needs to...
Record that really changed kind of how I started seeing things. Those two records were big. Man, what else we got? Yeah, Low End Theory was big for me. Midnight Marauder was big for me.
Wu-Tang?
Wu-Tang forever before I got into 36 Chambers. And I mean, even the Slim Shady LP, when that came out, that really, there was a paradigm shift. You know? All that everybody knew had to be rules was his case. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of records that kids need to kind of just go back. I wasn't raised by the Rakims and the Run DMCs and the NWAs. I was raised by the Jay-Z's, the Nas's, the M's, and now here we are with a new generation of kids. And there's a youth movement here that's moving forward that I'm part of. And we were the ones that were raised off the J's and the Nas's, and not so much. And those MCs, the J's,
as opposed to
they were raised
gangsters.
by the MWAs and exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So here I am, 23 years old, raised by a different generation. So you know, you have a movement here. So
what are you listening to now?
What did I have? Some from the J-Lib, J Dillon, Madlib, Champion Sound. I've been bumping recently. Leaky Lee. I've been
She's
listening
good,
to.
isn't
She's
she?
so cool. I think she's so cool. So I've been riding to her recently, and that's what I mean. I'm kind of all over the place, and I like it that way.
I would not expect you to be into Leaky Lee.
Yeah.
But again, that's a preconception thing, right? You got to break that down.
Absolutely.
Well, good luck with the record. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome.